The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Jared Goff is talking about his ex again, questioning the Rams' maturity. We are starting today with former Rams quarterback, current Detroit Lions quarterback, Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is speaking about his ex again. Jared Goff is still talking about a trade that went down in 2021. Now, a new season of Netflix documentary Quarterback Season 2, produced by the great Peyton Manning. Jared Goff is one of the quarterbacks that's featured in it, and he called it a blindside when he was talking about the trade that sent Jared Goff and 2 first-round picks to the Detroit Lions in exchange for Matthew Stafford. And then he doubled down on it. He took it to another level when he essentially said that the Rams were immature about the whole situation. Here is the direct quote from Jared Goff. Quote, "I would say about 30 seconds after that phone call, when McVay told me I was traded, it was on Twitter. You feel like you've been betrayed or like you're not wanted. And I think for me, ultimately, it was the fact that there was not a conversation had and there wasn't like a, hey, we're thinking of moving on type thing. There was nothing. You wish that it wasn't such a blindside and that there was some sort of maturity, I guess, to have that conversation and to be able to let me know what was going on and how things went down and why this is happening." So he doesn't use the word immaturity, but he questions their maturity, saying that there should have been some sort of maturity, as if Les Snead or Sean McVay or anyone in the Rams organization owed him the heads up saying, hey, Jared, we are going to be trading you. Hey, Jared, we're looking at some external options. Well, my question to Jared Goff is, what kind of world were you living in? Speaking of being blindsided, were you blind to what happened in 2020? Because in 2020, Jared Goff did not have himself a good season. Jared Goff did not put up the kind of season that the Rams were hoping that he would to get them over the hump. The goal was always the Super Bowl for Sean McVay and Les Snead. Anything else was going to be a colossal failure. And in 2020, he did not look good. He played in 15 games that season, threw for 3,952 yards, but 20 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. And what happened towards the end of that season, Jared? What happened was you were pretty much benched by John Wolford at the end of that regular season. And the only reason you got back in the mix as a starter was because John Wolford suffered a head injury in the Rams wildcard game against the Seattle Seahawks. So they gave you big money and you were replaced by John Wolford, and then it comes as a shock that the Rams are trying to upgrade? What are we talking about here? And you look at the Rams from this, they don't owe him anything. The Rams didn't owe Jared Goff a heads up. They're trying to do something that rarely happens in this league. We talk about it on this show a lot. Everyday listeners will know. It's very difficult to acquire a quarterback that is top tier. A top 5 to 10 quarterback is very difficult to get your hands on outside of hitting on one in the draft. So the Rams were trying to be the exception to the rule and get a Matthew Stafford for a Jared Goff, also including the first-round picks. So why would they tell you? If they tell you, that can't help them in any way, shape, or form. Because the person that you should have got communication from, that should have let you know this was a possibility, was your agent. So if you feel blindsided, that's because your agent is not being realistic. And yes, a lot of these players, they have yes men's and sycophants around them that are telling them everything they want to hear. So they like to massage their egos, right? But in this case, the writing was on the wall. And the truth of the matter is the Rams wanted Jared Goff to work. They traded up lots of draft capital to get him at number one in 2016. But they clearly felt like this was not going to work. The Rams-Jared Goff relationship was like a dude getting engaged to their high school sweetheart or their college sweetheart. And it was a long, drawn-out engagement where a lot of great times, you're young and fun, you have some great moments, but ultimately, you don't put that ring on it. And it falls out and it crumbles at the end. The Rams didn't put a ring on it. They put a ring on it with Matthew Stafford, and Matthew Stafford got them that ring that they were so desperately trying to win for so many years with Jared Goff and ultimately failed each time. So, look, this is a situation where Jared Goff needs to get over it. He really, really does. I mean, if Jared Goff had just played average, just C plus maybe, they probably win the Super Bowl in 2018, but he was bad. So, hey, look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, the truth of the matter is the Rams, they are in the business of trying to put together the best roster that can compete for a title. And unfortunately, they didn't view you as the guy that get them over the hump. And guess what? They were right. They were absolutely right. If I were Jared Goff in this situation, I'm not talking about this because the more you talk about it, the more if I'm a Detroit Lions fan, I'm like, dude, like, get over your ex. Like, Jared Goff is that dude who gets, like, all hyped and ready to go to his high school reunion with his new wife to try to get back at his ex, and he shows up and his ex is, like, with a supermodel, right? It's like, hey, like, the Rams are fine. They ended up on the winning side. So the more you bring this up, the more it makes the Rams look like they made the right decision. And if I'm a Lions fan, I'm like, dude, like, why are you so obsessed with your former team? So to me, if I would move on from this, if I'm him, and look, on top of everything else, he should be happy. He got $135 million, and he got in a situation where Detroit Lions fans are constantly chanting, Jared Goff, Jared Goff. They like him there. They didn't love him in LA because he didn't win. Okay? In Detroit, yeah, winning's nice. They'd love to win a Super Bowl, but they're the Lions, right? They're the perennial all-time losing football team, right? I mean, that's just that. Let's be honest. They've been better lately, but the Lions, they don't have a Super Bowl, right? So they're one of those all-time loser franchises that just, look, I mean, it's not a slight to them. Great fan base, great city. They love their team, but the truth of the matter is the Lions fans aren't going to be as desperate for a Super Bowl as Rams fans in this ownership. So be content there. Like, if you don't win a Super Bowl for that franchise, yeah, it will be a disappointment, but you also get a lot of credit for kind of revitalizing and bringing that team back and making them relevant. Goff doesn't win a Super Bowl in LA. He's a forgotten footnote and considered to be a bust for this team as far as kind of what they were hoping for him. So I don't know what he's so upset about. I mean, if I'm the Rams, I definitely take this as a shot. I mean, I don't know that Goff really truly understands what he means by calling them mature. I mean, I just think that for him to say that they owed him something when, hey, he was looking for better, the Rams looking for better, and they got better. So, yeah, I mean, I've kind of supported Jared Goff, but after kind of hearing this, it really makes me think, like, dude, like, you really put on record that you think that the Rams handled your situation poorly, and that can't be going on very, very well and being taken very well by the Rams brass, Les Snead, Sean McVay, and company.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups all summer long, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions, fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out. It makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
The Dallas Cowboys are in the market for a veteran running back.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast.
What teams have loaded running back rooms with tradable/cuttable players that could be an upgrade in Dallas? I've got a list of names, but I wanted to ask you, is there any player or team that, kind of stands out to you?
I think, again, I would look at teams that drafted a running back highly, that has a high number of running backs. I always kind of look at Seattle because it feels like Seattle has always got like 4 decent to good running backs on their roster. So, I wouldn't say that I have a specific team in mind, situation in mind, but I think I would, if I was going to start looking at a list of these guys, it would start with, the teams that drafted running backs highly in this year's draft.
Yeah, and that's a great strategy. And the teams that I've written down, almost all of them drafted a running back. At some point, a lot of these teams drafted running backs in the 4th round, but a 4th round running back this year is probably the equivalent to a 3rd round running back last year. So keep that in mind. And I have to warn you, when I tell you these names, none of them are going to like jump off the page and make you feel great about the Cowboys running back room. But I do think a couple of these names could be upgrades, and that's all we're talking about here. So I'll run through the list. You tell me if any of these guys stand out. Antonio Gibson with the New England Patriots. He's blocked behind Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson. Any interest there?
Yeah, I think we saw some good things from Gibson in limited situations, and I think he knows how to operate as part of a committee. So if that's what you're looking to do, is add just another talented piece to a committee, I think he would be someone that could be part of a good committee.
Yeah, and I think he's probably a guy that you bring in if Jaden Blue's not ready to handle the passing down stuff, because that's kind of where he's best at. He's not somebody that you want to give 15, 16 touches, I think, at this stage, but I do think he can have a valuable role on passing downs. Next one, Dameon Pierce. Now, this one feels a little bit like Rico Dowdle, where he's just gotten stuck in some bad situations. But the Texans have Joe Mixon, they signed Nick Chubb, and they traded a future 3rd round pick to select Woody Marks from USC, which still is a crazy pick. But Dameon Pierce is somebody who had 1,000 yards as a rookie in a gap scheme. They go to a wide zone scheme, not playing as well in that. On the last year of his contract, he feels very available right now.
Yeah, I think this is a name that Cowboys fans should get familiar with because for all the reasons that you just mentioned, and I think he is a spot where he fits better with what the Cowboys are planning on doing next year than obviously what Houston's planning on doing. And again, last year of his deal, he kind of checks all the boxes here. It's definitely a guy that I would say that if he brought him in would, kind of be the front runner to be the lead of the committee, maybe not a feature back necessarily, though. I think, there's a possibility that he, breaks out and gets into a good situation. He has that kind of talent, I think, to become a feature back in the right situation, but I don't think that would be the expectation. I think the expectation would be the lead, a nice little committee there.
Yeah, because he's not a guy that you want on all 3 downs. He's not really a pass catcher. He's somebody that you're running between the tackles in a gap scheme. And the idea is, hey, let's play him and Jaden Blue together. Okay, now I can see how that backfield would work. I don't think it would take a lot to go out and get him, but I do think he could give you Rico Dowdle-like production in this offense.
Yeah, just efficient on 1st and 2nd down, which I think is something that you're desperate for.
Yep. All right, a couple other names. Probably the biggest name on this list is Travis Etienne for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They drafted Tank Bigsby, I believe, in the 3rd round 2 years ago. They traded up for Byshal Tootin in the 4th round from Virginia Tech, who we know the Cowboys liked a little bit. Etienne on the final year of his deal. Now, I don't think Dallas would want to take on his full contract because I think it's like $10 million for this year, but maybe they split it with Jacksonville. He is a very talented runner. I wonder what he would look like in a gap scheme. But we know that he's been productive before.
Yeah, again, I think same sort of trajectory that you would think you have with Pierce, where at the very least you feel like he could come in and be a different type of player, probably more of in the blue, Jaden Blue kind of track of player, just because of his explosiveness and the pass catching ability. But I think same sort of thing where you bring him in. You feel like, okay, at the very least, we have a nice floor for this committee of running backs, with the hope that maybe Etienne could actually, break out in a better situation and take the lead a little bit more.
All right, 2 more names that I want to mention. I'll give you a quick one. Zamir White for the Raiders, final year of his contract from Georgia. Between the tackles, they drafted Ashton Genty. They signed Alexander Madison. They signed Raheem Mostert. He's somebody that I think is very available, but not a sexy name. Blake Corum for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams drafted Corum in the 3rd round during the 2024 draft, but all the reports are that they're going to sign Kyron Williams to a contract extension, and they drafted Jarquez Hunter from your school, Auburn, I believe early in the 4th round, and they absolutely love him. Blake Corum, not probably somebody that's going to do a lot on special teams, not really a receiver. I wonder if you could get Blake Corum for like a 5th or 6th round pick after kind of a disappointing rookie season.
Yeah. Now, this is a guy that you don't feel like maybe is someone that could develop into a lead back on his own, but as part of a committee could be a very valuable piece, right? Because what he does between the tackles, maybe more than the other guys, would be extremely valuable. I just have questions about the other aspects of his game, but if you put him into a committee where you can balance that out a little bit, I think he could be a really nice piece and really elevate your run game a little bit.
Last one before we move on. The Tennessee Titans are rebuilding, right? And they have Tajay Spears, right, who they drafted, I think it was the 3rd round during the 2023 draft. Very talented player who I think they want to get more work. Would you be interested in a Tony Pollard reunion? Let's say if Tennessee starts out 1-5 or 1-6, and maybe you could flip up a late round pick for Tony Pollard.
I don't know. I mean, I really felt like he just doesn't have a lot of power at this point, and I just don't know how much he's got left. That's and I worry about injuries too at this point with him. I think probably so. But I would be wary about being excited because of his name. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I would tap the brakes on a lot of high expectations for Cowboys fans, because I think it would be a solid. I think it would be kind of in the realm with some of the other names that you mentioned. But I think Cowboys fans would feel there's more juice because they know that name a little bit, and they've forgotten that it's been a couple of years since he's been here.
He's also going into year 7. And I know he didn't have a lot of touches early on in his career, so he might be okay. But year 7, that's when running backs, really, we've already seen their peak. And again, if you're renting him for a half a year, it's not that big of a deal. Who cares if it's a 5th or 6th round pick? Like, nobody's going to care if they do that. But I also wonder if you're looking at someone like Blake Corum, and if you can get Corum for the same price and you have more years left on the contract, maybe that's more appealing. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting name when I went and looked at our lads and looked at some of the depth charts across the NFL.
I think it's a name with more juice than actual production there, just because, like you said, advanced age and a lot of different other things.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Look, they're saving you money already.
Don't confuse what was true last year with what is true about Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers for 2025.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
Last year looked different in concerning ways for Packer fans and in ways that opposing fan bases have glommed onto, have decided that they're going to take and hold on to as much as possible. And the big one last year was can't win the big game. And we've talked about this before. In 2023, they had no problems winning the big game. They won a bunch of them. And they ultimately ran into a 49ers team that required them to play a better than they did game. They played a B minus game against that 49ers team and still almost won it. They needed to be playing B plus, A minus, A game. If they bring their A game against that 49ers team, they win. Because the 49ers did not have their A stuff. And I think that there were some weaknesses there that the Packers were in a position to exploit. Let's not fall down that rabbit hole too quickly. Let's not confuse, because I think the more I've thought about why are people looking at last year and projecting things forward into 2025, and how are they coming to that conclusion? And I think that they have over-indexed things that happened last year when we also saw this team play in 2023. Let me give you an example. In 2024, Jordan Love had 10 touchdowns and 5 interceptions when he was blitzed. Not great. That's a lot of interceptions. Then that has led to a narrative of, oh, you can blitz Jordan Love, he will throw the ball to the other team. Except in 2023, Jordan Love had 8 touchdowns and just 1 interception when blitzed, according to True Media. He had the second most yards in the NFL against the blitz in 2023. What is true about Jordan Love versus what was true about Jordan Love? And it is why I understand people want to say, oh, you're a homer, you're defending him. No. Last year, the injury clearly affected Jordan Love. Go back and look at 2023. And if you want to be maximally charitable here, you can say, well, then maybe Jordan Love, this offense, maybe they're not what they were in 2023. Maybe they're not what they were in some of the other, opposite ways in 2024. We'll learn in 2025, sort of the rubber match of these two seasons. But here's the thing. They've been good offensively both years. Jordan Love has been good, in fact, very good statistically in both years. How about another example? Shall we? 2024, Jordan Love threw 4 interceptions when he was hit. 4. You can't blame him. Getting hit, guy in your face, get the ball out. Okay. In 2023, he was one of only 4 full-time starters to not throw a single interception when he was hit. Not one. So, does he have a problem? Or did he have a problem? In the aggregate, what does the tape say? What does the data say? We can do this with man coverage too. Christian Watson, a big part of that, to be sure. We talked about the man coverage yesterday and why I'm still a little bit dubious about Dontavian Wicks taking a more full-time role in all of that. In 2023, only Dak Prescott threw more touchdowns against cover 1 than Jordan Love. Jordan Love threw the same number of touchdowns against man coverage in 2023, his first year as a starter, throwing to rookies and second-year players, as Patrick Mahomes. And among quarterbacks with at least as many starts as Jordan Love, only Jared Goff has thrown fewer interceptions against man coverage the last 2 seasons. So do the Packers have a man coverage problem? Does Jordan Love have a man coverage problem? First of all, the answer to the Jordan Love part is clearly not. And second of all, the answer is if the Packers do have a man coverage problem, it is not a Jordan Love problem, and this is the point that I have tried to make over and over, the Packers are not a perfect team. But what flaws they do have offensively are, by and large, not a product of Jordan Love. And so when we try and project this forward, one of the reasons why offense is sticky, one of the reasons why year to year you tend to be able to say, we can predict what this offense is going to look like based on what we saw last year. Coach, quarterback. Their impact, their imprint on an offense is profound. And so, we talked yesterday defensively about the volatility of turnovers and the sustainability of the process of their, the game planning and what made them successful. Nothing fluky in here from Jordan Love, certainly. And so when we look at what happened last year, we don't even have to be overly generous and say, well, that one might be a fluke. No, let's count that. Those things happened, but then don't not count what happened the year before. Don't not count that, because it does count. There's this style of parenting now, or at least a line I heard about parenting, about, you want to try and avoid, maybe I'm butchering this, so let's go on this journey, but saying things like, you are smart to your child, rather than defining the specific behavior, can set them up to, when they don't feel smart, it hurts their sense of self. This idea of, well, you are this thing, so why am I not this thing? And it brings shame and all these things. Whether or not you agree with that style of parenting is relevant to this example. Sometimes you are something in the moment, and sometimes you were something. There is are as in a perpetual state. You are a thing. You will always be a thing. I think we have to be very careful with saying any of those things when it comes to professional athletes. Now, when you have we knew what Aaron Rodgers was for a long period of time. We knew what he was good at. We knew how teams were going to try and attack him. And then it did evolve over time late in his career. Like the book on Aaron Rodgers for a long time was, you cannot blitz Aaron Rodgers. You have to rush him with a 4. But late in his career, you could, because he didn't want to get hit. Still doesn't want to get hit. So those things can and do change. So we have to be constantly updating what we're seeing, what we're thinking. Just because something happened last year does not mean that it is. Not to get, too philosophical about the nature of being here. The Packers had a problem with man coverage last year. Do they have a problem with man coverage? Jordan Love had a problem throwing the ball to the other team, particularly when pressured last year. But does Jordan Love have that problem? He did in 2023. So what was different? Well, his receivers couldn't stop dropping the ball, and he was hurt. So what is the most likely explanation here? It's just Occam's razor. What is the most likely explanation? Well, it's that what was happening when he was healthy is probably the more representative sample here.